Hello again, I am Jim Bob and welcome back to City Skylines for the first part of a periodical series here. This is my own personal creation that I've been working on in my own spare time when I get a little bit of time away from recording stuff for the channel or just playing some other stuff. I do like to try and jump on this. I actually started building this just before I finished off City Skylines Mass Transit playthrough at JBPG City. So this is what I've been kind of doing in my downtime. Since then I've been working on creating a very realistic looking city in terms of the scenery and trying to really create something that looks really special. So at the moment this is just going to be a very sort of occasional series. I'll post little updates on any significant changes as I go along. Who knows, this may develop into a full-blown series in the future, but for now I just wanted to have something to build without any pressure of having to get stuff done on an hour by hour block. I just wanted to really dedicate as much time on this as I really wanted to get it looking exactly the way I wanted it to, without the constraints of a recording schedule to keep to and a release schedule to keep to. So this is what I've created so far. Let's just zoom in and take a closer look. First off, we have the dock area. Now this was the very first thing I did when I came onto this map, was to terraform the area a little bit and straighten out this hillside here and try and put some docks in with a nice smooth quay wall all the way along. So this area has been reworked ever so slightly, and just put that quay wall in there, and then it just kind of reverts back to regular sort of terrain, and that there is the original entrance to this dock. So it's been cut in a little bit, as you can see, and then pulled out here specifically for this little area here running into the docks itself. So over here I've got these two water treatment plants. These are just here on a temporary basis. These will be relocated to a proper water treatment facility at some point in the future, but I need to figure out exactly where that's going to go and where I'm going to offshoot that water to. So they're there for now. They will disappear in the future. And then I have my docks themselves. Now I actually only have 3 of these cargo hubs, these sort of rail freight cargo terminals just here, and you can see I've linked all 3 of them together with a bridge network that connects them all, and then they go off to the mainland over there. And then I've got this nice little sort of bypass network down here, so I've got dual carriageway of freeway selection that runs down here, so the traffic can move nice and fast, moving to these individual docks where they need to, with a slip road to get back out again. To fill the gap here, I've dropped in 3 taxi ranks just there, so it can spawn taxis in and out of my city. And over here on this one, because I've got a bit more space and it's a bit wider, I put in 2 of these road maintenance depots just here, so I can send the trucks out to go and maintain the quality of the roads and keep traffic moving nice and fast. That actually goes one of my trucks, and there goes another one, and there's one coming in. So you can see that those are doing what they need to do. Now this is completely everything unlocked, so this is the first time I've built a city with everything unlocked and no money worries whatsoever, infinite money. So it's purely just to see what I can build and see if I'll be happy with it and pleased with the way it turns out. And it's taken me hours upon hours upon hours to get to just to this point where I've got a population of fluctuating between 10 and 12,000. So these docks then spit out just here onto this dual carriageway that runs to our freeway connection. This is a hand-built connection. Obviously this is not in-game, it's not a generatable asset, it's something that had to be constructed manually. And I wanted to try this sort of elongated roundabout that runs underneath like that. And I think that will look, it looks good. I think it works quite well so far. Again, it's only a 10,000 population or so, so there's not a lot of traffic, but it handles the traffic that's coming in. The freeway itself has been completely reworked all the way from both ends of the connections. So it goes off here, and then the actual connection at the start of the map is somewhere about here. Yeah, there we go. That's as far as I can scroll to the edge of my tile. I've reworked these bits ever so slightly. They're a bit up and down over there, but I didn't really start working on the freeway until this point here. This is where they both kind of tie up quite nicely in terms of height and spacing. They pull out, and then all the way along here. I flattened out all the ground along here so I could run my freeway along here at this slightly raised height. So that it then gave me the ability to create the space here for my off-ramp. So then terraformed the ground in the centre there to raise it ever so slightly to create that kind of island effect around the road, so it's not just flat road and nothing else. It's been raised ever so slightly in the central area. Didn't want to go too extreme on that. Those trees and rocks were already there. I've just left them there because they actually look pretty cool, I think, like that. And then the connection goes back up over here, and the hill climbs, and this is pretty much this little stretch of road here. This is pretty much, you know, uniform height for the terrain. I haven't really done much terraforming, a little bit here and there, and then obviously a bit of terraforming along here. This is where the hill was originally. I wanted it to be nice and uniform height and distance all the way along here, because I'm putting in a rail connection that's going to go underneath here. That's going to go off and feed that section of the map when I get around to working over there, and then going along here, that's going to go into a tunnel somewhere along here. So this rail connection here, which is just temporary, will be sort of deleted. This will be sort of reworked and lowered into the same trench somewhere down here, or maybe that will just go into a tunnel somewhere over here. I haven't quite decided how I'm going to do that yet, but then just so I can connect to my external connections. That runs all the way along here to a central station that I've placed in there. That's where it's going to be, but these connections here, these are kind of temporary connections that I've drawn in just to get some services running, just to see what they look like and work on my placements and stuff, and get a volume gauge on the amount of traffic of, you know, train-wise it's going to be going in there and out on each of those platforms. So again, this area is going to change a little bit going forward. This rail connection here, again, as I said, is currently temporary. Got a bridge that goes over the river just there, and then goes off this way and reaches this station here. This station's been placed in because this is going to be a local service, and it's also on the border of the map. That's the border just there, so I can't go past that point. So that's a great place for us to put a station. And then going across the river, there's another one just here, and then the border is pretty much right past the station where that curve changes slightly. So it means I do have that very, very steep bridge going over the freeway there, but I can't change that. That's part of the external collection or connection, as you can see just there. That's the boundary. So these stations, the placement will stay the same. The road or the rail network will change slightly, but that's pretty much what I want. And then the river, I have terraformed the banks of the river ever so slightly, just to make them a little bit better where I can. Obviously, that corner, which I'd like to terraform, is out of my range, but from that point in, you can see I have terraformed the bank a little bit to prevent flooding. And the reason why I've done that, I've also widened it ever so slightly in places as well. The reason why I've done that is because I've put in a hydro dam. I've always wanted to have a hydro dam on a long-running map, and I've played about with them, but I haven't really used these very much. So I wanted to have a hydro dam on this one. And then these rocks are actually part of the river. These were already here, but they do look pretty good with the way that the water level has dropped as a result of the dam, and those rocks are exposed as opposed to being under the water. I actually like that. I think that looks really good. So very pleased with the way that turned out. And again, those rocks there would be completely underwater, but now they're actually poking out. And again, that's part of the original design. Same here. These rocks here at the exit, these would be mostly underwater, if not completely. But again, because I've put the dam in and it's dropped the river height down quite substantially, those are now exposed, and I really like the look of that, so I'm going to keep those there. I've got a disaster response unit in here because, you know, I do have disasters on a very low frequency, but I haven't turned them off. So I am occasionally going to get some kind of a problem, as happened over... Where is it? Here. I was plotting out the basic area for a farm just here, and you can see... had an earthquake that ripped through this part of the ground here, put in a nice big chasm, and completely trashed my roads around here. Actually took out a couple of pieces of road. I think that had a road across there, and there might have been one across there as well, and those have been destroyed as part of the earthquake, as you can see. Yeah, that needs to be just reworked a little bit. I'll come back to the farm at some point in the future. And that's hopefully going to be quite a big farm, but I may not even build that there, after all. I may relocate it somewhere else. It's just, you can see we've got that nice patch of fertile land. I kind of wanted to take advantage of it where I could. So, let me show you what I have got over here. I've got some waste disposal units just here. So I've got this road that runs along here, along the edge of the docks, as you can see, the rail line that raises above it, and then we'll curve around. That's my commuter line, you'll see that in a moment. This is just a small industry area, just to provide some jobs and just a little bit of industry for our port area over here. And I've got my waste disposal unit here, so I've got 4 of these landfills, and then 4 of the incinerator plants just there as well, so that they can cope with emptying out these landfills, and also when the landfills are being emptied, they can still send some trucks out to go and collect waste from the city itself, or the town itself. It's not really big enough to call it a city at the moment, is it? So that runs along there. I've got a couple of nuclear power plants just here. It's a bit overkill at this stage, but going forward, obviously we are going to need quite a bit of power for the city, and I want that to be a nice contributing factor, along with my hydro dam over there as well. And then I've got a fire service and a police service and a health service for my industry area just there. This road runs along here. It comes off down here, and you can see I've got a little bit of lumber industry, a bit of forestry along this side. Now, because these are very small zoning blocks, it's just putting in pallets and pallets and pallets of wood. But as they run down along here, they then come out to a nice big lumber facility. So it's kind of like a storage area for this business just here, and actually that actually looks quite good. I like the way that's turned out, so I'll leave that like that. And you can see trucks will occasionally turn up and drop off lumber and then disappear again, or pull out from there as well. And then along here I've got 2 emergency helicopter fire services just here, 2 fire depots. So because there are lots and lots of trees on this map, it's very easy for a fire to spread very, very quickly. I recently had a fire that caught because of a storm, a lightning storm, and this whole section of trees all the way along here, that whole lot just burnt out completely, despite having fire services with helicopters to put out land fires like that, 6 choppers, and a ready ample supply of water right next door. They still all burnt down because it just burnt so quickly, and they were out busy putting out other fires at the same time. So yeah, that comes down here. I've got another little depot area here for emergency services, so fire, police, medical, a few offices kind of scattered around here, and then a little taxi rank just there. And over here, this is my my harbours. I've got 2 of them, 2 harbour docks, purely for passenger ships. You'll notice no regular cargo docks at all. It's just the rail terminals. I'm not going to put in the traditional cargo docks. I just want to have the cargo hubs instead. See how that works. Might have to revisit that in the future, but for now, that's what I've gone with. Yeah, and then a station just here, a commuter station. This does have some trains running on it at the moment. It's mainly sort of the only trains bringing people in and out of the external trains. I do have a couple of people riding the service to the main station and back again. I'm not quite sure why, because there's nothing out there, but they are running it. And again, it's just because I wanted to see trains running on the lines. All the networks are going to need to be reworked in a little bit going forward once I've finished reworking the lines, and the colours will all be completely changed as well, but they're just placed in there as placeholder trains for now. But I've created a nice little scenic area just here. So I've got a footbridge that goes over the top of the rail line just there, and then these long shallow bits that come out to the roads at the beginning of my sort of residential areas like that. And then I've also got a path that runs along here that then spits out just over here. And also there's a path that then goes through around the outside of the station to the docks, to the cargo hub. Well, sorry, the passenger hub just over here. So I've got a few nice little sort of passenger connections, as you can see. Quite a few people using that one there to spit out into the city. The city itself is all low density, as you can see. It's all residential with a nice sort of ribbon of commercial that runs through the centre of it. So if we zoom out like that, there you can see that kind of ribbon of commercial that runs through the middle like that, and then residential all the way around it. And what I've really tried to do is kind of take inspiration in places from having played Grand Theft Auto 5, and there are little bits of San Andreas that have kind of provided me some ideas and some inspiration for areas of my own little city over here. So some of the major sort of features of this area that I do quite like, obviously we've got this main road that runs all the way along the docks here, and then gets to a triple lane just here for the main junction spitting in, goes off to a little residential area just there in the hills, or the base of the hills, and then this main dual carriageway that comes along this way. That's the road that runs all the way through like that to there where it stops, and then obviously I've got my commercial stuff either side of that. So that's my main boulevard that runs through this whole area. But there's also a dual carriageway just here as well, as you can see. This runs up through here and then goes into a tunnel. Now that initially was just a single lane road, but I did like the idea of it becoming a dual road. It just looked a bit better, I thought. And that comes out over here, just there, and spits onto another boulevard, this time using something a little bit different. This is one of the new road types from the mass transit. I just really like the look of that type of road. That was how I wanted to use it. It stops there at the moment a bit abruptly because I haven't really finished developing past this point. That's as far as I've got. But going along the other way, it runs all the way along to the coastal road, which then kind of goes around here, around the base of the hills, and links the two areas together. So there's a link through the centre of the hill with the tunnel. There's a link around the edge with the coastal road there, and there is another link just here as well. And this one, I really like this road. This goes up the hill, cuts through a little valley, and comes out into the hills up here. And I call this area the hills because it is slightly raised. This area is only a little bit raised compared to what's lower down here, and then you've got some more exclusively raised areas. And this hasn't really been terraformed that much, if at all. This is basically just the land as it was, and then the ledges that have kind of been created because of the houses that are zoned in alongside the roads that were placed down. So very little terraforming has gone into creating this. I just wanted to have a nice sprawling kind of network of roads that ran through these hilly areas. Something that was a little bit inspired by the Vinewood Hills area, the quite exclusively rich area from San Andreas, from GTA 5. Even down to having an observatory up on a hillside up in this area as well. That's kind of a little nod to the observatory in San Andreas there. And then there's another little nod coming up, which you'll see in a moment. But I've also continued, as you can see, building on the other side of that little valley there. More raised houses up on these hills just over here. And then that kind of eventually winds its way back down to the main boulevard just there. And I call it the main boulevard. There isn't actually much stuff on this side of it because the coast comes in a bit. I could possibly extend the road around a bit here, and then I've just got a road connection that kind of just links up to the station and to the disaster response unit. So that's not going to stay like that. That's going to change going forward, but that's where it is for now. And then this is the thing that I've just this moment finished building, and I've been playtesting it a little bit to see how it works and how it fits. And again, it's kind of a little nod to GTA with a reservoir. So it's in this condition right now. I've been playing around with different numbers of outlets to see how well it fills and how well it stays at the right level. And I do need to make one last little tweak. I need to put a fourth one of these back in. So let me square that up a little bit. if it'll let me. There we go. Let's put a fourth one of those in. I've also got power from my wind turbine just there, and then we've got this road that runs along here to kind of create the loop around the reservoir by having a pumping station just here and some water storage tanks. I've got a pump there, A, partly for a visual aesthetic, and B, to help control the level of the reservoir, because it does reach a point where it gets too full. So I need to turn the other pumps back on. Start filling this up with water. And then, again, this is an idea that I've actually taken from JBPG City, my little mountain reservoir. So you can see, again, kind of terraformed the area put a little bit, plonked the storm drain over, or the outlet just in there, pointing against the rocks so that it rebounds back down here. Carved a very thin channel where I can, tried to make it as low impact as possible, and then I've just laced stones around down here on this one. Now these small stones, they do not impact the water flow. These larger ones, these do. These, if I go to the delete tool, these are obviously a big templated block like that, and they will cause obstruction to the water, which then has to spill over the top of it to be able to clear it. With these rocks here, the water just goes straight through them as if they weren't even there. So they're purely there for cosmetic purposes, but they look pretty good once the thing is turned on. So let's turn this one on. There we go. You can see the water level immediately starts to push against the rocks and then flows back again. Water is just being held up a little bit because of these blocks here, and then it spills down, and because it's spilling down at a decent speed, it's kind of creating a little bit of a white water effect, which is what I was trying to get on the last river, if you remember, on JBPG City, and couldn't quite get. This one I've managed to get it to give that kind of white water effect, which is exactly what I wanted with these stones here. Having those stones there and the fast-moving water, the fast-watering mover, that's what I was going to say, the fast-moving water, and that little kind of white water visual really does tie in quite nicely, I think. So it's a little hard to see at the moment because it's kind of a bit overcast and it's raining, but it does look better, especially when the water level rises a bit. So we need to get this water level up before I turn the pumping station back on to help manage the height of the water, and then I can turn these valves on and off where I need to, just to help slow things down a bit, or make it a bit more controlled. So we'll come back and have another look at this in just a moment once this level has filled up a bit more. Okay, so the water level is now a bit more where it needs to be. I think it's about time for me to turn on the pump. There we go, and that'll just help control the water level and stop it from spilling over the top and flooding out the entire area. I do have these stones here. These are just, again, these are just randomly but naturally placed. These ones all the way around here, I haven't placed those. The only ones I've placed are the ones here in the river bed, and then obviously these clumps at the top here, just to give a bit more sort of a scenic look to the start. So that random stone there, or that little cluster of small random stones there, those are actually naturally on this map like this. I haven't put those there at all. They're just, they tie in quite well. So yeah, that's the effect of the river there, as you can see. And I think it really does look quite good as it flows into the reservoir like that, just to give us a nice supply of water up here for, again, for aesthetic purposes more than anything else. This isn't water that's necessarily going to be used, but it does mean that I do have a supply of emergency water if I need it. Should there be a problem with my main supply, I can turn off other pumps, and I have this pump here, and obviously any water that goes into my storage tanks here as well. So yeah, that works out quite nicely. I'm very pleased with that, and that's that's pretty much my city as it stands so far. So a few little nods to GTA San Andreas, well, GTA 5 and the reworked San Andreas with the hills. The rain stopping, lovely. So yeah, these sort of hilly areas with the the more exclusive areas with the tree-lined roads that run through here, the twisty roads that go through the hills and create nice changes in height for all the houses, like this. Very much an homage to that little area. And then the main road that kind of links through here. No trees on this one, but the grass-laid road which links back over there. And then the second area of the hills all the way around here with some more pronounced height over the area below it. And the reservoir as well, the latest addition, which I only finished making just before recording this. You can see that water is still rising, I think. Might need to turn one of my pumps off, actually. Let's turn one of them off. Let's turn that one off. There we go. And there's what I mean about having that turned off symbol ghosted through. It doesn't look great, but I mean, if we're touring the city like this, then you don't see it. So there we go. That's what I've been working on, and that's what I will continue to sort of work on in my spare time and my downtime when I get a moment. My new special custom built city. And as I say, this will be a periodic series where I occasionally post an update video to show you progress that I've made, and who knows, going forward it may turn into something a bit more frequent. And if we do get another expansion, I want to have this done and dusted so that we can then try and apply the expansion to this brand new ready-built custom city. So there we go, that's it from me. Thanks for watching. I am Jim Bob, and I'll be back with some more footage of my little personal project here at some point in the future.